when you look back, was that just unlucky, or is there something that maybe could have been done differently, whether that's timing or anything like that?
Unlucky is probably the word I would use. When the ball bounced like that, and it's shaped like that for a reason. That's the nature of the game to some extent, and sometimes it goes in your favor, and sometimes it doesn't.
Is there anything that could have been done differently there?
No. The ball bounces different, I guess. Certainly, there's, we talk about ball placement and route running and little details, but I felt good about the play. I felt decent about the way it was executed, and kind of got an unlucky bounce there coming off of a tight break and a tight window in a critical situation.
Do you think, did Kyler get rid of it a little quicker than normal because of the pressure that was coming?
He would answer that better than me. They were certainly they sold out. It was cover zero. They brought everybody. Which we kind of felt like there was a chance they were going to do in that situation. So you got to get the ball out a little bit earlier, maybe than you wanted to. But I don't know if that was the difference in the play.
When you look at what you guys have been doing offensively, and especially like this past week where you move the ball easily, not getting the touchdowns that you want, is that something that you can? Other than the execution part of it when you're closer, is there anything that can change out of that?
I think there's always going to be things that say, hey, we got to tweak this or change that or be better there. But I think you hit on it. We need to execute better in the red zone. We've got to call better plays in the red zone. And I said this to guys, it's not, to me, big things. Like, I don't think you watch that tape and you're like, this is a massive error or a terrible idea or we're not doing the right things here. It's little details that affect us in a major way. And I think that's the nature of the NFL to some extent. And I think you have to really hone in on those details in critical situations, in the red zone, on fourth down, in those moments. And I think we can be better in some of those. And I think we need to be.
Is one of the things that's the nature of the NFL and the nature of maybe reactions is that all the focus obviously is on that one play and not about what occurred to even get down into that position in a crucial part of the game, obviously.
Absolutely. And that's always, and I say that, I think we talked about this, people do that with the season too. It's always the last 3 or 4 games that change. The record would have, like the first 4 games were just as important. They count just as much. And that's true in plays in a game. It's true in the season. And I think it's what makes the NFL so fun to watch. And it's what makes it so hard. And I think it's really important as a team, as a player, as a coach, that you understand the importance of every play and the importance of every game. I think you can't take that for granted.
I know you're not going to be doing a lot of the look back on the season until we get past this week, but when you get into the off season, generally, do you feel like, okay, there may be a need to tweak some kind of fundamental thing with what we're doing offensively, or is it going to be mostly like, hey, when we're in this situation, we need to just do this a little bit better and all that stuff? Like, do you have a big picture sense at all right now?
I don't, without obviously focused on San Francisco, wholeheartedly this week, going out to win this game. I think obviously when that game is over and we start to go back through the tape, I think we'll have probably both of those. Hey, we can be cleaner here. Let's keep doing it. And hey, these are things that we do want to change and we do want to tweak and we do want to look around the league and look through college and see where can we be better, either fundamentally, scheme, all those things. Certainly not focused on that at all right now, but that's a big part of the offseason process. And I don't think you ever want to go into it being like, no, we're doing everything right and we're going to just stay the course. I think you always want to say, hey, where can we get better? What do we need to tweak and how do we do it?
What's the line between, let's say you want to change something fundamental, whatever it might be, going into the offseason, what's the line between wanting to do something like that and wanting to create the stability that the players are comfortable in what they're already doing?
I think that to me is one of the most important things as a coach. And getting good at something is really important, but also making sure that you're not committing to things that aren't working. And I think finding that balance and trying to make sure that you're doing both of those things is really, really important from a coaching perspective.
With all that being said, though, we're not going to talk to you again maybe until training camp, right?
You guys gonna miss me?
How would you evaluate Kyler's season as a whole, though?
And it's like so hard for me to answer that because I'm not even in that mindset. It's like unfair to answer the question without going back, watching the tape, sitting down in a calm setting, going through each game, going through each pass, going through each concept. And right now it's like I'm so focused on, all right, here's who we're playing, here's what they just did last night, here's what we're doing for the game plan. So I don't want to avoid the question, but I feel like any answer I gave right now would not be fair to Kyler or to the team just based on where my mind's at.
Would it be fair to ask of what you feel at this point now compared to where it was last year at this time when he was coming off the injury and maybe not sure what you were going to get for those final 8 games?
I think to that point, we have a lot more evidence to go back and look at now. I think where it's like, all right, hey, we have, whatever it is now, what will be, 23 games, is that what it is? So something like that, so we have a lot of more evidence to say, like, all right, hey, here are some things that we're really good at, he's really good at, that we need to continue to emphasize or do more of. Here's some things that we thought we were good at that now that we've done it, because it's not like every game plan you have the same system, plays, runs, passes. But over time, you're going to try to figure out kind of what to hone in on. I think we're going to have a lot more evidence to do that here this offseason.
We've talked to you this season kind of about your process and how you handle things on the sideline. Are there ever times when you call a play and you either instantly regret it, or afterwards you're like, man, I should not have called that?
I think in hindsight, you always do that when something doesn't work. But I think the reality, and this was a Pat Shurmur quote, which I very strongly believe in. His thing was always, if it made the sheet, it's not a bad call. Like, you spent 5 to 6 days putting that sheet together, tweaking it, changing it, adjusting it, making sure that you felt really good about it as a staff, as players, as coaches, put it together. And so by the time Sunday rolls around, if it's on there, you should feel good about it when it comes out of my mouth and into the headset. And I do believe that. Like, I feel really strongly about that. I think you have to have that kind of conviction as a coach.
To have a rusher, a runner go for 1,000 yards, have a receiver do the same, and James and Trey, what does that say about maybe the balance of this offense, or maybe that's just more individual in who they are as players?
Stats to me are a player-driven. Like, to me, that's those two guys being elite players and playing at a high level. I think it's their teammates going out and doing their job at a high level, so those guys can have success doing theirs. Certainly, I like to think that we have both. It is balance is a part of it. But as we talked about here, it's never like we want to be 50-50 or 60-40 or anything like that. Those two guys are, two of our best players. They deserve the ball. It was great to see them have success in their roles. Certainly need that to continue, but. So really excited for those guys. I think probably more than anything.
Has Marv progressed the way that you had hoped? I know you don't want to put big expectations on him from a stats standpoint or anything tangible like that, but has he become the receiver that you wanted him to be?
I think he's doing exactly what we asked, and really what we ask of everyone in that room is consistently improve. Get better every time you go out and do something, learn from it, be better the next time you do it. I think he's done a really good job of that. I think you've seen that growth and maturation on the field each Sunday or Saturday night. And so I think that's been really good. Been really pleased with that.
I know this whole reflection thing isn't where your mind is at yet, but what are the areas where you feel like this offense does? It's been 15th in points, somewhere around there in yards. What are the areas this offense needs to get better in order to elevate to that top 5, top 10?
Again, I'd be guessing. It's almost unfair to ask. I think that's why the offseason process is so important to what we do as an organization, what we do as an offense. Until you go back and watch the tape, right now I'm watching game to game, I'm watching the opponent, I'm watching a little bit of self-scout and making sure that we're on top of what we're doing. But when you go pair it together for a 3-4 month window and then go out and practice stuff and rep stuff, I think that's when that stuff really starts to take place. So, and I mean this, it's unfair. It's almost impossible for me to answer that question at this time.
Putting it all in perspective, how much do you look at it? I saw a stat for a different team where they said they had averaged this many points last year, and now it was an incredible difference this year, and it came down to 1 touchdown. That was the improvement. Is that in some ways as simplistic as it is just improving enough to raise those points, but maybe scoring 1 touchdown makes a difference in 3-4 games.
It absolutely could. And that's the reality. They always show the stat, if every 1-score game was flipped, here's everyone's record. And it's crazy. Teams go for, so that's the nature of this business. So our job is to fight for every inch to make sure that we can flip those. And that could be a play, it could be a scheme, it could be something we're doing operationally, something I'm doing as a play caller. I think that's what that offseason program is about and so important for, because you said it could be 7 points that change 3 or 4 games, and all of a sudden it's a completely different season in either direction. Right, and that's real.
In those close 1-score games, which you've had a handful of being on the wrong side, had a handful of winning those games, with the exception of simply execution, what does it take to really put things over the edge and consistently win those close games?
I think communication, play calling, scheme, preparation. I think there's so many things, and it's not just a play caller. It could be JG to me, it could be special teams, Jeff Rogers to me. There's so many things that come into play that it's not like you're going to be able to prepare or rep all of them, because that's the unique thing about football. It's that situation that we're in on that field position against that matchup, you get that once in 35 years, and you're not going to necessarily know exactly what it's going to be. So much goes into making sure that you are prepared, and ultimately the execution is what's going to come down to it. But there's a lot of little pieces, I think, that put you in position to go execute the proper thing at the proper time in those moments.
Have you had a play like that where you've once in 35 years? You've seen?
Yeah, I mean, almost all of them, right? I mean, to some extent, I'm joking, but like if you look at like the Minneapolis Miracle, like that's happened once in NFL history. And, I was in the box for that one. So it's like, and that was a critical moment at the end of a game in a, one-score game where it looked like it was over, and then all of a sudden it went a different direction. I've been on the other side of that too, in the wrong direction. So I think that's real. I think that's part of the game. It's what makes it fun and really stressful.
When you look at this past week, Kyler with 321 passing yards, what did you feel like was able to happen in the passing game to kind of put up that explosive performance that we haven't seen?
I think we've talked about it. When things are good and they're bad, it takes 11 people to go out and have that kind of success. I thought protection, from the O-line, from the tight ends, from the backs was really good. Certainly guys winning their one-on-ones down the field, making some impressive catches in contested situations, making the easy play and then getting some yards after catch. You saw from a number of people. So it really takes all 11 on the field to go out and operate that way in the passing game.
Is that reassuring in a way to know? I mean, you guys have run a pretty unique style of run first offense to know, hey, this style of offense we can still have the explosive 300-plus yard passing days in this system.
Absolutely. And always feel like we want to be able to do whatever one we feel like gives us the best chance to win the game.
How does the passing game that played so well on Saturday, how does that carry over from week to week?
I mean, to some extent, every week's a little bit different based on matchup, how you want to do things. Like the week before, I think we had just as many yards, very different structure based on the nature of the game, the opponent, and how things played out. So I don't think it's necessarily like, hey, we did it this week, it's just going to carry over. I think it's constantly working at the things that allowed us to have success, whether it's protection, route running, detail in terms of Kyler's feet, and decision-making, to make sure that we're putting ourselves in position and then letting the matchup, the scheme, dictate whether it plays out like that.
How good was it to see that passing game click after a few weeks of not working?
It's awesome. It's great. Yeah, it always feels good, to be honest. But it's like I said, I wouldn't say the passing game wasn't clicking the week before. We had 400-plus yards of offense. It just happened to come in a different form because of the nature of the game.
I know you said that the last few games are the ones that people might remember, but they have the same importance as the first few weeks. With that being said, this is the final game. So what would it mean for the offense to put together the ideal performance that you're expecting and hoping for going into the offseason?
To me, I want to win the game. I'm an extremely competitive person. I don't honestly put much more on it than that. I mean, it's a great feeling to go into the offseason with a W, but that's true after a Week 16 win as well, going into the next week. But at the end of the day, the reality, and I said this to guys last year when the season came to an end, is like, we built some things. We think we're moving in the right direction. We have to work our tails off to start that. Like, it's not like, hey, we ended Week 17 in January on a good note. It's going to carry over to September. Like, that's not how this league works. There's going to be some changes. That's always the case from who's playing, who's healthy, how things roll week to week. And certainly 7 months later, I don't think that's we have to look at it that way. So I just think that's kind of the reality of it.
As the OC, when the season's over, do you, when you have your exit meetings, do you give guys specific things to work on, or is that more of a position coach?
Both. And a lot of that's me, talking to the head coach, the GM, the trainer, the position coach to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of here's the plan. And you have that meeting quickly, but a lot of that's kind of built over the next couple weeks as you start to digest the tape, really lock in on where we're going to go, what we need to do, and how to do it. And then kind of present that to the players, say, hey, we feel like these are the areas. This is our plan to help you get there. Here's what we need you to do, and then let's move forward with that plan.
It looked like Marv had a bounce back game this last week. Just what stood out about his performance, or was any major changes that you saw?
Again, I don't think it was anything drastic. I think he's done a really nice job of being consistent from a work ethic and execution standpoint. Won some one-on-ones. I thought he played fast. I thought he played really violent and aggressive at the top of his routes, which I think you saw some of that separation there on some of those contested catches, which was really good. Saw some run after catch. We were able to get him in open space a couple times. But no, I don't think it was a drastic change. I think he's done a great job of being consistent from that standpoint.
So your mind is on San Francisco, so what did you see from them last night?
Mostly this morning. I can't stay up that late all the time. But I think you saw a lot of the consistency of the system that you've seen over the last couple of years. Certainly it was a tough matchup for them for a number of different reasons, but I think that system is extremely sound. I think they're very confident in how they do it, why they do it, and the players that they have in that system. Certainly you saw the pressure on the quarterback from some of their, Bosa and some of that defensive front, which makes them so dynamic. Fred's probably, if not he's probably the best Mike linebacker in the National Football League, and so he's showing up on every play, no matter who they're playing. I think all those things were on display.
If Purdy is unable to go and it's Josh Dobbs, I mean, is that an insane advantage for this team? I know not you.
They don't
but-
play defense, as far as I know. Now that could change. No, I'm kidding, obviously. I mean, we know Josh a little bit, but at the end of the day, no, probably not. I think it's going to be a tough contest no matter who's out there.
Back to Saturday for a minute, in terms of the success, how important was it that there was some, good third down conversions, but more plays? I mean, 70 plays, which is a season high. So how important was that? Obviously, that adds to the total and what was produced.
Absolutely. I think you hit on it. When you convert third downs, you extend drives, you create extra plays, you have more opportunities to put up yards and points. I think that's a huge part, and I think third down was a key piece of that.